and we are back. Friday Night Live with Enlighten Up Media. Hello, everyone. Thank you for our slight tardiness here. We're having internet and camera and all different kinds of issues, and that's totally okay because everything happens in divine timing. So we are extremely honored to have Michael Forrest back. And oh man, okay, and I'm going to put your name below us in a second here. We also have David from UfoWebCam with us today. And I guess I didn't hit save when I changed the introduction below here. So I'm going to let you guys say hello to our wonderful group of people here and introduce yourselves because you're way better at it than I am. So do you want to start, David?
Yes. Hey, guys. Great to be here. Dave Metcalf, St. Pete Beach, Florida. I have a background, 18 years DOD, been on Air Force bases around the world. From there, really got into being an entrepreneur. Have a current business now I've had for the last 8 years in St. Pete Beach called Sharky's Glass Bottom Tours. We stretch all the way down to the Keys. What's interesting, it's a night tour. And the reason I'm kind of talking about it, it's a rare tour. We have glass bottom kayaks that go out. We put high powered underwater LED lights on them, and we feed fish on the tours. What's really cool is a lot of our UFO research, and that's mainly what I'm doing as a hobby now for the last 2.5 years. February 2024, moved into a beach house here in St. Pete Beach. And believe it or not, out of all the places I've been in the world, I'll show you. This is where I started seeing them, February 2024. And long story short, 3,000 time date stamp videos, 4 Mufon investigations and writing is unknown. Wrote the book Friend or Foe documentary, and it's got 200 QR codes of actual videos because I got tired of UFO stories. So when I basically read about it, you get to actually click the QR code and watch the video as it happens. Got another book that's coming out called UFO Miracle. We opened the first alien relic museum in the United States, and Mike was a great part of that as far as helping out and just providing a lot of information. As we know, he's probably the top researcher in that field. What's great working with Mike is he was able to take a lot of this physical evidence from the past, what I'm capturing real time, day to day, what we're filming, and which was confirmed by Paulina, Congresswoman, just literally live on Fox about 3 weeks ago. She did the map showing that we're pretty much the hottest spot in the country. And she was also on the Benny Show. I think it was at MJ Truth Ultra after the show with Joe Rogan. And I actually sent her staff, the UAP Task Force in DC, to Samuel Luna an email, which contained our portal videos that we've captured right here on the Gulf, the size of a football field spinning with objects coming out. And also some of the crazy daytime UFO captures we've had. So we emailed that to them. And then interesting enough, a few weeks later, she went on the Benny Show and said, my county, Pinellas County, is a hot spot as well. So we have that playing in our Alien Relic Museum of the Unknown. And it's just become a hobby that's turned into just a passion for getting the answers. The answers we're all kind of looking for, the unknown stuff out there, and what the heck is it? So I'm bringing it to light by time, date, stamp video, investigative bodies and writing, using a lot of logic and a lot of science on this one. And, my military background as well.
Beautiful.
Now,
wonderful.
Does that lead you into a lot of freedom of information requests? I imagine, some of the stuff that you get, you probably have to go through those channels too.
Well, so, what's interesting is I'm a great researcher, but I put so much research time into what I'm capturing.
Yeah.
So I mentioned my Glass Bottom Tour company because I started to have theories that as we watch all these different organisms and animals on our planet, we put cameras on them. And you look at Shark Week, for example, we watch them eat, sleep, fight, mate, everything, right? And so why wouldn't a higher intelligence do that to us? If they could have the ability, let's say they're thousands of years more advanced than us, and they would have the ability to cloak themselves and remain invisible. Well, let's talk about that. If we all had the opportunity to be invisible or not, roam around. Probably pretty cool to be
Who
at
wouldn't
this
want that? Yeah.
right? And, and that's, if they have that ability, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? I mean, we've done so much research. We've taken snaps of them with the old cameras and the old bulbs, and literally, I mean, gosh, this was just a month ago, and 5 feet above me was an orb or an object about this big, and
Wow.
yeah, and so they would take these snapshots, and this doctor and another lady done this research where they're taking these old cameras and they're just taking shots of them, and over the last 30 years, they've got so many pictures of orbs like coming out of the Kodak.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, come on down to my research deck and let's, walk around and take these snaps. And for the first time she did that, which was like 2 weeks ago, her name's Mia. She's one of my followers on Instagram. And I was just like, Mia, you got to come back, because I wasn't filming, but I was so shocked at the one that was like 5 feet above my head. And I was actually thinking about it last night when I was going to sleep. I was like, dang, that thing was so detailed. And I would have loved to get, so we're going to do some more research on that, but we use frequency lasers. And then we started going from crystals to the actual alien relics. And that's how I basically got into these relics, which Mike is a top researcher on. And I had to go to him to get more information, because my study is in the modern day captures of anomalous objects that I'm capturing, especially over the Gulf, right here over the water. Because we have so many videos, which I haven't released, 3,000 time date stamp, and I have released some, but we have so many videos of just stuff we're catching over the Gulf. When you look at what I'm looking at, it's 180 degree view on my research deck, and we got a high camera. We're actually, it's a commercial grade, and this stuff is catching stuff in infrared, orbs, and stuff that we can only really don't see with your naked eye.
Yeah.
But we're seeing craft come out over the water. I actually have a map of one of the orbs I've classified as an ancient organic life form. I don't believe they're ET, because I've tracked them literally every day for 2.5 years. I can tell you, and I bought people out like Chris Bledsoe. I just did a post on this. I had 35 people out there, along with Joe Fells was there, and his wife, and Arturo, and all them. And I showed them all right there. We showed them all the orbs coming out. They're the size of cars, and they're intercepting planes. I believe they use bioluminescence to emit light, which are organisms. That's the number one form of communication on our planet, because there's more organisms in the deep oceans than there are on land. And they use light for communication. They use light, which is bioluminescent. So it would be interesting enough. See, on those ones, when you can come up with a schedule and know that they appear every night at 8 o'clock, when you know when they appear in November, December, January, and where they're at in March, and they're only overlaying on this part, and they're doing it again. This is 3 years of tracking video data, going back and say, well, what happened last June? Boom, boom, boom. It all matches, right? So did ET, the little green guys, give me a schedule? I very seriously doubt it. But we can track herds of animals through their systems.
Yeah.
So I believe, because these guys don't do UFO moves. Now, I capture a lot of craft that do what I call the UFO moves, right? But these ones, the orbs, just float gracefully. They move about 1/4 mile to 1/2 mile, then they disappear. And they cross, they come out of the ocean, they go straight down, but they always keep a straight line. They move about 1/4 mile to 1/2 mile, then they disappear. We all see them with our own eyes. I could bring all of us out at the time I expect them to come out, which tonight's going to be 10:30, about 11:30. If you're in the St. Pete area, Clearwater, I'll blow your mind. Do it. Go out at 10:30. Look right off the coastline of about Indian Rocks Beach. And so I have a lot of followers in the area. I'm going, Dave, I'm freaking mind blown. So even though I'm a museum, I created a map that people could go and buy. And when they come here for tourists, and just literally go out and look at it. And
so cool.
But the other ones that I'm capturing now, going into our mini surveillance of these things watching us, which makes sense because you look at how we operate as a military. So we have F-22, F-35s, let's call them our best fighter planes, at least the ones we know about. And so now the way things are working is we have a company called Anduril, Boeing, which we've heard of, and Boeing's come out with the Bat drone, and Anduril's come out with another drone, which are autonomous. Makes a lot of sense, right? So now basically there's no pilot in these autonomous drones, and they're about the size of maybe a Volkswagen. They're smaller than our regular fighter jets that are manned. But
Yeah.
now these wingman drones will go out, fly with the pilot using AI tied into your helmet, where now you can control, and they have their programming, these autonomous drones, and fly with your plane. But you can send those guys who are unmanned. So now you're taking the risk of life out of the equation,
Yeah.
your efforts, and you're sending those guys in to do the dirty work. So I can remain up here in the sky while I send Mr. Drone down there, drop some bombs, do some surveillance, have him come back, right?
Yeah.
That's what our military is doing now. And this is what China's doing. And they're really leading the way on a lot of this stuff. And then we're keeping up, and we're now doing the same thing, along with hypersonic missiles, lasers, microwave weapons, stuff, we just, DARPA, Skunk Works, and all these guys are getting into. Now, if you take a civilization that's got thousands of years, just even call it double our years of modern day technology, which I would say, wouldn't it be fair to say we got about 200 years?
Yeah.
Modern man technology. Where were we at 200
Yeah.
years ago? Riding horses?
Yeah. The
Look
a light bulb.
right.
Yeah.
250 years riding horses. Look at where we are now.
Right. So
That did not take thousands of years. So let's
Right.
take a civilization that me and Mike have talked about, the Ajiji,
mhm.
right, Mike? The Nephilim, all these on the relics that Mike specializes in research, and looking at that story and looking at the carbon dating and the testing, and going, holy crap, if this physical evidence matches up and these are real, it shows a race that was here thousands of years before us, and they have flying craft.
Mhm.
So it kind of tells me they just did not influence Egypt alone. They flew around the world, and they
Yeah.
influenced the indigenous around the world, just like us. We are
Mhm.
not just going to fly in the U.S. We fly everywhere.
And
So
it's in every petroglyph and every wall carving and
yes,
relief.
this is where the logic that I play into comes into it. It come from the military standpoint, been on bases 18 years, joining the Air Force myself, having a brother-in-law, well, let's not get into what he does, but high up in the military, and, just working with a lot of organizations like Skunk Works, DARPA, Lockheed, Raytheon, and all these. There's some crazy things that we have out there, but let's understand one thing. When people think that we have the special magic weapon where we can just push a button and end it in a war, well, wouldn't we already have done that in Iran? Would we have wasted all of our Patriot defense missiles if we had the secret weapon? Right?
I think it's all
push
just
a button and just send
business.
that thing in that these people see zooming around like that. Oh, that's just our stuff. All that crazy stuff that you're seeing, that's our stuff. That's our military. Well, if it was really our military, do you think we'd spend billions of dollars in losing our Patriot interceptor missiles? Or do you think we would just press the button and send the magic weapon in that everybody's calling not a UFO, not an alien craft? They're calling our stuff and our weaponry. Also, if you look at it from an adversary standpoint, they're watching my kayak tour. And they're watching Dave Metcalf here on his beach house. Now, I promise you, I have no secret information as far as weaponry and military and tactical things that China would want to know, North Korea, Iran, or Russia. And I don't think they're spending their billions of dollars, if this is their technology, watching us on our kayak tour or watching on my beach house deck. But what makes more sense is that a higher civilization watching us, like we watch every organism on this planet. That makes sense.
Well, and that higher civilization is probably making any attempt for us to do anything stupid with our own weapons. I'm sure
I think we've already done that.
Yeah, that's happened in Area 51, but I'm sure it probably happens a lot more than we realize.
Well, when you think we're a war-mongering species,
we're
not a peaceful species. Look at history books. Empires have been they've fallen. We've taken over. Look at everything from Alexander the Great to whoever you want to think of, even now.
I think limiting us to what we're capable of doing with our technology is not what they're after. I would imagine that any higher consciousness, any advanced civilization will be looking for the individuals like us who are awake. They're looking for people who can actually participate and raise the vibration and raise,
It definitely
you
is
know what I mean,
about
the conscious
consciousness.
community.
There's no doubt
Yeah,
it's about consciousness. And if
yeah.
these things in, like some of the, like Congresswoman Luna talks about, some of the other ones, things they've seen in the skiffs, if they are ultra interdimensional,
Hmm.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, look at what we're doing now in science, where they actually talk about the words of teleportation.
Hmm.
Um, you know, and so, and now we're able to do certain things of teleporting like a molecule up to a
Hmm.
space station or something like that, right?
And the medbed permissions that were just
Right.
acknowledged in Japan, and yeah, all that. What just this week we had some really cool stuff happening.
Yeah.
So, uh, Michael, you so everyone watching, Michael, we did a whole episode with Michael last week. I'm not going to ask you to completely reintroduce yourself, but I definitely want you to be part of this conversation because I know you guys know each other and you both have really unique perspectives, and I'm sure you agree on most things, but also you have your own areas of study to lend to this conversation. So please jump in.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I'm Michael Forrest. I own aliencarvings.com and came into this as a skeptical researcher trying to understand if what I was being told was true, which was that there was these stones coming out of the ground in Mexico that were 10,000 years old. And I just couldn't buy it. I couldn't believe it. And so I started diving into it. And a little project during a pandemic became, 7 years of research, and got
Hmm.
have 9 books out by the end of the year. I've got 2 that I'm just about to release, Forbidden Relics Volume 2, which is like our catalog of a lot of the pieces that have been extracted. There's over 1,000 color photos, macro photos of all the different items inside, and a story to go with them of where they were found and how they were found. And yeah, should be pretty good. Uh, Excited to be here. So
And
definitely,
and then
yeah.
you just moved all of your stuff back into your house, so I'm surprised you're not levitating right now.
Man, I'm so tired from moving all this stuff. I'm just kind of skating still from moving, but yeah, really happy to be here though.
That's
Uh,
cool.
yeah, moving
Yay.
is not good
Yeah,
when you
Mike
have
was
a
telling me
collection.
about that move. It's funny because I could, when Mike was telling me about his move, and Mike has a lot of relics, and so when you
Mhm.
talk about our museum just having 49 relics,
Mhm.
and when he gets into the T number, you're talking thousand,
Mhm.
it's like, whoa, man! I had to move those 49 relics from my stairs in my house down to the museum, and I was like whipped. So when I'm like feeling it for him when he talks about, I got to get a dolly and get down the
Yeah.
stairs. I'm like,
And
dude,
who do
that's
you
all I
trust?
do. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I,
Exactly.
I did it. And I didn't break a single one, and I'm really proud of that because
Yeah.
I break them just packing them sometimes, or
Mm,
unpacking them. So I mean, these things are fragile. They're old. The glue
yeah.
is not what it used to be. You know.
So I didn't think about this before, but since you're both collectors, and I know that you know other people that are collectors, would you say there are a large amount of individuals that have 1,000 pieces or more? Like, are we there? Have we uncovered that much?
I I'm definitely sure there's a couple that are in that number for sure, and there might be a handful, but I don't think there's a large number by any means. Definitely not over. I wouldn't say there's even 10 people that have 1,000 of them, but there is quite a few people getting into it. I mean, there's a lot of pieces being found almost every day from over 30 different families, and that's just who I know. And I know there's multiple people hitting me up all the time, and it's just I don't have the capital investment to keep chasing the
Yeah.
rabbit when I already
Yeah.
know, like, how far do you go with it, and so
Hmm.
I definitely have ambitions to go into Guerrero and the Miko Khan, and try to figure out if their story, how deep their story goes, because it seems as if there's a whole nother civilization, maybe years apart. Like Dave was saying earlier, this 250-year gap is crazy when you start looking at 10,000 plus years of civilization. How many times could these things have built up and been wiped out? And finding in Tula that we go through these multiple ground floors, that this has been built upon itself at least 3 times, and that's just down to 20-foot level. What happens if we go 100 feet deep? That's what I really want to know. I want to see
I
the
want to know.
SAR scans of Tula and really get deep with it.
Wow,
It
I never
only,
thought about that. Yeah,
it's
that's
only going
amazing.
to take one person with a shitload of money to finally just get on board and be like, all right, here we go.
Yes, yes.
It's Brandon from Skinwalker, man. Let's give him a call.
Yeah, like who do I know?
Yeah,
We
they're doing something else at Skinwalker, and it's like, man, I'm a one-man team over here, and
yeah.
think about the funding that those guys have and what they could
What
do. It's just phenomenal.
there's a real connection, I think, though, here with Skinwalker. I think there's
Mhm.
a real important connection of an ancient past. There's certain petroglyphs and things that they found on that property, and
Hmm.
they've documented metal spheres moving around really clearly, like years before the Boogosphere ever even crashed. So
You know what's crazy,
this whole
Mike?
thing's connected.
You know what's crazy, Mike, and you say that. And so with my modern day taping and researching of the anomalous out here, the different craft, I see it on there, man. Especially the orbs. Now, a lot of my followers are showing me the same orbs around the world.
Yeah.
But when I see what they're looking at, I'm like, wow, that's the same thing. But what's amazing is they haven't got into the recording of what I call the mini surveillance technology that's being used. They're always looking up in the sky, and we've always been accustomed to that when we're looking for UFOs, right? We're like, oh gosh, look to the sky, especially at night. We're always like, let's look for a bright light. Isn't it so true? I mean, everything has been about night lights in the sky. Most of the reports have. Well, we record during the day now, 95% of what we do, and you can't imagine when they have technology that moves as fast as it does, not in the blink of an eye, but the millisecond of an eye blink.
Yeah.
And so me and Mike were talking about it framing in high frame rate, 120 frames a second and higher. And that's how we're actually catching them, where we can see a fly zoom past, and you could literally see the wings on a fly every time it flies by.
Yeah.
So we have to do a lot of those videos just to show comparison
Yeah.
of what we're actually capturing. It's amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
Shannon and I are connected. We have friends in Sedona. Our friend Shauna, her mom runs Best Tours of Sedona, and she does the night viewing the sky when you're looking through government issued infrared goggles. And I've done it many times. I've seen what you're talking about. It is
well, what's
undeniable.
Right, but what you're referring to now, is what we see on infrared. Okay, so through my cameras that I have mounted on the wall, the high definition 4K that we have, we've gone through an Anki low light vision, which we thought was one of the best ones because it was praised to have low light efficiency. But going through those cameras, and I'm not talking about our telescopes and just the iPhones we use and the different things we use for recording in different situations, but I'm talking about our mounted camera right here on the beach house deck looking over the water. Now, but it was interesting when I decided to finally put thousands and that, not just 1,000 or 1,500, but
Yeah.
$4 or $5 grand into a commercial grade high def camera called Cortex here. And I went with their highest grade, newest one on the market with AI, and the infrared stuff that it shows me is so freaking unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's what I did research on, what we call the spirit orbs. Now, we cannot see those with our naked eye, but every once in a while they give off a light and they'll show us.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just give off a light just a little bit. But that's what I talked about in one of my last posts. It was 2 posts where I started actually classifying the different orbs, because the surveillance orbs are different, where they're just moving real fast. And I would give those kind of a militaristic type of movement, and its aerodynamics, and you can tell how it's going around in searching and watching things out. But they move so fast that we got to catch them on high frame rate.
Are those the kind that look like, when people catch them on their phone camera, that look like a bright light that's just constantly moving and it kind of floats around, but it has like a central spark to it?
So that would be the spirit orb.
Okay.
The spirit orb can be the size usually of about a grapefruit. And
Yeah.
I have them on my camera where they go against a 20-mile-per-hour wind. They blink And so they'll literally blink. And when I've asked questions, they blink. Crazy enough, when I started getting into them, so you'll see videos where I call them with my arms and just bring millions towards me. And so I started tapping into them. And I have a lot of videos like that, 5 times or 6 times, almost like the UFO callings that I did during the day. I have 12 of those videos where in the middle of the day, I call them mentally, and I timed it in under 3 minutes and less to where a light appears right over my head, man, the same craft every time. So again, you know, that's why I talk about in UfoWebCam connecting the dots, because that's really where we're trying to take it, is connecting the unknown. It's really unbelievable. Like one of your guests here talks about, they're asking a question about the orbs. How often do you see the orbs? Like when there's something major coming, a storm, do they act more? And I'm curious. So they asked about a storm. This is interesting because I saw it and I would like to say something about that. In my book, Friend or Foe, book documentary, it's on Amazon. I really haven't pushed it at all. But it has the QR codes to where I talk about what I see, and a lot of it's the orbs the first year, because I did the first year and put 200 QR codes. Now I'm starting the second year from it was May 2024 to May 2025 was Friend or Foe, 200 QR codes with videos. And now the next book is UFO Miracle, which will be May 2025 to 2026 May. And I've got all the videos. I mean, it's taken us, but that's taken us into Atlas and all that. But going back to the question about the storms, do they act differently? There was 2 huge hurricanes that hit us in 2024. Hurricane Helene that hit St. Pete Beach, and it caused major flooding. I mean, I have actually in my book QR codes that show here at the beach house the flooding that came through this, and it was so bad. I'll even show you that we oh, I lost you. Now we can see the ocean here and the high grass, but it came down. You see my wall down there. It knocked down my wall, that Hurricane Helene, and it took out my wall. And water just rushed like a moat around my house, 4 feet up, and went all the way down the side like a river. And it was so high, and and that was a Hurricane Helene, which was 100 yards off the shore. And it just had a king tide surge that hit us with 6.5 foot. And everybody across the street, the whole road on St. Pete Beach called Gulf Boulevard was completely underwater. I have videos of that. But what's interesting is on both storms, Hurricane Helene and Hurricane, I think there was a second one that was really just a windstorm after that. Milton, I think, Helene and Milton, I think that was it. And that did not bring in the floods. But I can tell you that the orbs disappeared for 4 days after each storm. And I actually document that in my book. Now, these are the ocean orbs that appear over the water. Okay. And they're the ones that we see that are on time frame, a time where I have a map where literally in May, June, and July, they're over land in North St. Pete Beach. And we caught them in July to where there's a police helicopter up there. And I posted the video, and there were 30 orbs during an hour period that were around this police helicopter. And Mufon did an investigation on it. It was all unknown. And we pulled the 911 reports, and people were literally calling 911. They're only over land May, June, and July. So now that it's August, they're 1 mile off the shore looking north from the Don Cesar Resort. 1 mile, that's it. And I just had a family come out the other day, and we were showing them. But they start moving down the coast, and I'm looking directly west, and they only appear directly west, looking towards South Texas, November, December, and January. That's it. And they're directly out west. A lot of times that's when they start coming out of the water, but I have so many of them reflecting on the water. Now we've been through all the Starlink guys and all that. We pulled Starlink Tracker. I dealt with Ben Hansen, ex-CIA, Ross Coulthart. I talked to those guys. It was funny getting in battles with them in the beginning and proving ourselves. And then we started showing storm clouds, huge storms, and then the orbs would appear in front of those storms on the water. It was like, okay, Ben Hansen was the first one. He goes, yeah, Dave, you're right. That takes out any space-based objects.
Yeah.
You know, clouds on Earth are not the same as clouds in space. You know, so we won. And then I went against so many debunkers from Stephen Greenstreet and so many others that I literally challenged and did a $10,000 challenge on my social media channel. And it's not a challenge, it's a bet. So that if you think that I'm showing you AI, you think I'm showing you satellites, or you think that I'm showing you bugs or anything like that, and it's
prove
not,
it. Yeah.
It's a $10,000 bet, title to title company. That means you deposit the money, I deposit the money. We have professionals look at it and go through it. And I've gone after the biggest debunkers and said, let's do it, man. We'll live stream it, even from my museum. And they all turn away. I can't tell you how many screenshots I have on their DMs where I could just,
Yeah.
I nail so many of them. Because when I sent him some of the stuff that I've sent Mike, which he's seen stuff in my house that's splitting apart and going back together,
Mhm.
and stuff coming, like some crazy stuff, right? We even talked about one that I'm holding back right now on my kayak tour, which it's the size of your palm. Imagine a flying saucer, silver, the size of your palm. And so this is a mini surveillance technology I'm talking about, like with our wingman drones going out and watching us up close. And it shows why my kayakers at one of our tour sites with Sharkies, in 4 feet in between, there's a disc that flies by, probably a foot over the water, one of these mini discs. And as it flies by, there's one floating in the water. Now, the great thing about this, me and Mike were just talking about, is you can compare visually and look at the one flying by
Mhm.
and see the one that's floating in the water. It's the same craft. But here's what's cool. When the one flies by, the one floating in the water that's floating with the waves, it all of a sudden levitates and lifts off the water very slowly. And that's amazing. It's amazing footage because you see people right next to it in their kayaks, but you see this disc, size your palm, lift off the water, show the shadow and everything, show its gravity effect as it's not floating on the water anymore. Just and
So
people,
density. Yeah.
oh, it's a trip because it's not something flying by anymore. And this is a daytime shot. I'm
Yeah.
only
That's
30 feet away,
wild.
30 feet away from this recording it. So yeah, 3,000 videos. There's stuff that I don't post and I haven't put up yet
Yeah.
because I'm just kind of holding it back for
Yeah.
the real
Yeah.
big.
Well, that's cool though. Michael, in your artifacts, do you find something like in your discussions with each other and your findings on the alien artifacts, are you witnessing repetitive symbolism that seem like orbs or anything that David was just talking about?
Very much so. Yeah, in fact, I would say 90% of the artifacts have orbs depicted around the depictions of whatever's on there. If there's a scene with Horus or Anubis or Ra, there's orbs all around them all the time. And there's actually in the Pistis Sophia, which is an ancient
Mhm.
text, 2nd century, it talks about these orbs and the reign of the sphere, where they controlled humanity with these spheres. And so it's interesting to see that we have the Bogosphere that crashed, with the chip
Mhm.
on it, and I think that's um, really an important symbol because it was depicted in Mexico months before in an archaeological dig, then the Boogosphere crashing, and so seeing that come from there from an ancient item. There's also the chip looking iconography in what was it? I want to say Australia. Oh no, it was Italy. I'm sorry. There's a
Mhm.
there's a design that's a petroglyph type thing or a carving into a ground floor near a mountain or something like this, but
Mhm.
it's quite large and it looks just like the chip that's on that Boogosphere. So it's really interesting seeing that there too, and the connection that that has to this, because yeah, there's so much on the infrared. I really want to go down there and see Dave and see, because I've got some camera equipment and stuff that might be good, just setting up different angles or trying to
Mhm.
capture, any other things that
We
we can see.
we need to send you with the infrared goggles too.
Yeah, yeah. Gen
Um,
3 night vision makes a difference in a lot of cases. For a lot
yeah.
of them, you can just see, and and night vision's infrared based, so there's clearly a spectrum that they're hiding in that we can't easily perceive.
Yeah. I
What's
think
fascinating, and I'm sorry, I have to say this. It's just because I get so excited when I hear you
me
guys
too.
talk about the infrared stuff.
Yeah.
So the spirit orbs, and you got to look at my channel and see them at UFO
Mhm.
Webcam, and look at when I get
Mhm.
into these orbs that I'm standing on the deck and I'm doing all these things from crystals and standing out like a cross and seeing if they're good or bad or ask them to respond, right? But there's things that you see with those orbs that are so fascinating. It's more amazing than watching a fish aquarium, a saltwater fish aquarium, where you're just glued to it because some of them blink and then some of them transform. I've seen them what I call the Cheeto, and we all know what a Cheeto looks like, and
Mhm.
I've seen them do what I call the Cheeto effect, to where they're an orb moving, and then all of a sudden they'll turn into like what looks like a Cheeto, but it floats like a feather. So it'll start doing this number in the sky, like they're just floating around, and then it'll boom, turn into an orb again and just jet off. And I've seen one which I haven't posted yet. It's so amazing. It's so freaking amazing because I don't tell people what it is. I like them to look at it, and it's an orb that passes right in front of me. I catch on my infrared night vision, and you see it transform into a plane, a car, like a go-kart. And when I don't say anything when I show people the video, I just say, "What do you see? Tell me what you see." Yeah. I'll do the same thing, Mike, when I see it. Like, look at this, man. What do you see? And they all say the same thing. They all like, dude, it's a plane. It's an orb that transformed into like a Cessna plane with its wings and its tail, and then it turned into a car, and then it turned into. This would lend the credence our theory saying they're spirit orbs. That would be maybe a young soul that passed away and only understands what he played with.
Toys.
Wow. Yeah.
Again, I've got video of this. Okay. And when I look at millions of orbs here on the beach, millions of them. Okay. And I can tell they respond to the relics and the energy and crystals and me talking. When you give them attention and enough of it, I've had people out here and watch them on infrared, how they respond to them. Now, let's talk about something that makes a lot of sense to all of us. We've all vacationed. Where do we mostly like to vacation to? Where do we usually get our best memories? Where do we get married? Where do we have honeymoons? The beach or the mountains, right?
Yeah.
When you want to classify basically from a physical geography standpoint, the beach or the mountains.
The negative ions at the beach is probably a huge attraction.
Well, we're just talking about you guys having a good time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm not sure where you live, but I know Mike sure as hell wants to come down to the beach and hang out here instead of living up north in cold ass weather, right, Mike? You better say
he wanted me to come down in the summertime. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I know.
But seriously, let's do a poll.
Yeah.
Let's do a travel poll. Do people go to the mountains more? Or do they
but yes. Yeah. No, people go to the beach.
Go to the beach.
Yeah. I live at
all of our resorts that are making so much money, and we hear words like Cancun, we hear words like Fort Lauderdale and Panama City Beach for spring break. We don't hear Gatlinburg, Tennessee, or Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Or Gatlinburg. We don't hear of Atlanta, Georgia. Oh, great! I took a vacation to Atlanta, man. This is great. Or Detroit, or even to Lake Tahoe. Even though Lake Tahoe's great, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I'm in San Diego and I deliver wedding cakes, and they're all at the beach, and they're all melting right now. Yeah.
I mean, look at this. It's God's creation, right?
Yeah.
So if we were spirits and we passed away, and as beautiful as it is, would we maybe roam the beach while we're waiting to ascend? I think concerts, and we're taking pictures of this now.
Yeah.
We're coming up with other people that have done this research and going, holy crap, you're seeing orbs over the concerts and stuff. Hey, I missed a lot of concerts. I'd love to go see you too.
Yeah.
And if I pass away as a spirit, I don't need tickets now. So I'll over there,
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure there's a different vibration and frequency with an ocean and a concert and people enjoying themselves, and they're I'm sure anything greater than us is attracted to joy. Right. I know that war and all this other stuff comes up, and there's a place for that, but honestly, authenticity is the highest vibration, and that comes from honoring who you are and joy. And so when there's a large group of people experiencing that, it is going to draw. It's got to be a magnet, right?
Right. Well, I mean, we're looking at the sunset right now.
Yeah.
How many times do we say, oh gosh, let's go to the beach and look at the sunset, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's classic. It's something we all just like take pictures of, share online. Oh gosh, I had a great sunset here.
Yeah. We're simple. Incoming.
So yeah, I've been watching them a lot, trust me.
They're like, what are you up to today?
Well, they know I got an alien relic museum. they know that Joe Fells came over here and opened his relics here at my house right over there, and those were the light up relics. And you know,
Ooh, yeah.
yeah, there was a lot to it. He was we were going to do stuff, and he wanted to put those books inside the museum, which we decided not to. And after everything that's happened to him, which Mike knew him as well, and Mike was talking to me at the time when he came down here, him and Arturo. And actually, I had Mike, right? Mike was like, Mike, come on down, man. Mike almost came down during that whole thing when we
Yep.
opened him up. But it's crazy when you look at all that stuff and you look at how paranoia feeds in the thing. But when you, even today, have a Cessna just do a circle around your museum, and there's things that when you're in this type of research, of course, when you look at stigma from the past and everything, I mean, let's face it, we're in new times now. The government's releasing UAP files, right?
Yeah.
And so thank God we were at the right time, because we don't have that concern of the men in black like we used to. Or
Yeah.
what
You know,
a-
you just I don't know why, but it just made me think of something. So, Michael, have you taken any relics on the plane? On a
Yeah.
plane?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So, have you had them on your person where you had to walk through security and they come? So, you know how now we walk through the scanners?
Yep.
I had crystals in my pocket the last time I flew, and I didn't even think about this. And they stopped me and got all weird. And luckily, there was the main woman that was talking to me was actually kind of nice about it, because it was really unnerving the way they approached me. Like, what do you think is in my pocket? It's like rocks. It's, you know, and she said, well, our technology doesn't pick it up correctly or something.
Yeah, it almost looks like a liquid or some type of bomb material potentially, so they have to take it really seriously.
So what happens with the relics?
The relics
Considering,
go through just fine. I mean, I've been stopped
okay,
every time. Every time I
okay,
take a crystal skull, a quartz one, I get stopped every time because of that. It looks like
Wow.
liquid, and they can't have anything over a certain amount of liquid, and then they have to check certain things. There's also different inclusions in the quartz that can show up as metals and things. So yeah, it's every time. But for the this type of artifact, no problem ever.
because it'll just seem like clay or art or something. Okay, they're not
Yeah.
paying enough. So I would imagine that stuff would really flag some sensors,
Yeah, my
considering.
my friend was coming back from Canada, the guy that showed me these pieces for the first time, and he had like 10 or 12 of them in his glove box that he had sealed up in this little case. And
Yeah.
so he goes through the customs and they pull him off to the side and they start asking him all kinds of questions about radiation and stuff. And they said that his car was producing a high level of gamma radiation. And they made him go over to the side area and look at all this stuff. They held him for like 2 hours questioning him. And that's the
Wow.
only thing he could think of, was that it had something to do with those pieces. Because I mean, he has no, he's a very simple guy, so he doesn't have any type of technology or really anything
Yeah.
on him that would. I mean, I don't know what could potentially produce that. So very
Have
odd.
Have you tested the radiation in your studio?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a couple different radiation detectors just to be sure. One of my wife was pregnant and I started collecting these. That was a big concern, and
Yeah.
them glowing green, I didn't know, but no, very little radiation. More off of your cell phone or microwave for sure.
Okay, cool. Good. Shannon, do you have anything that you want to ask or bring up at this
No,
point?
well, one of the things I'm interested in is when you talk about bioluminescence, and it's, conveniently located right off the coast of Florida. You've got Puerto Rico that has all of the bioluminescent bays and a lot of bioluminescent creatures.
Mhm.
Have you seen things there, heard a lot of activity? Like, is it maybe more intense around naturally occurring bioluminescent features or similar?
No.
Any thoughts on that?
So, um, so the bioluminescence you're kind of speaking of is like when you jump in the water, or you take your paddle and you paddle it through the water, and by stirring it up, you can see the glow. Now, we don't get a lot of that here
Mm-hmm.
on our coast, on the Gulf Coast here in the Tampa area. That mostly is out like in the Cocoa Beach area on the Atlantic side,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually do kayak tours and stuff for that. We're not able to do that. Now, every once in a while, like when the Hurricane Helene came around, it brought a lot of bioluminescence. I know my guys were talking about the other night, because they always jump in the water at night after the kayak tours. And They're like, dude, there's bioluminescence out. And that was like a week ago, but it's very rare in this area now. So to clarify, when I was talking about the bioluminescence from the ocean orbs, now remember, there's certain orbs like the spirit orbs and the surveillance orbs. I don't see that with them as far as that type of feature of using bioluminescence to communicate. At the same time, though, with those spirit orbs and the surveillance orbs, unlike the ocean orbs, I haven't put together a map and a schedule when they show up every night. you know, so again, that's where that lends me
Yeah.
to the fact that the ocean orbs I'm seeing every night are because I'm tracking them like a herd of animals, as we track wildebeest and as we track
Hmm.
everything, and they move in seasons. It could be fish species, dolphins, orcas, whatever it may be, right? We all know blue whales, sperm whales, they all have
Hmm.
patterns. We know where to see them at certain times of the year. So that would lend credence to the theory that these are an ancient biological life form that I believe has been on this planet
Hmm.
longer than us, which shows on the relics that Mike is talking about. And I believe these beings, the Ajijis, had the ability, of course, to see with the night vision and see these as well. Not only with the regular eyes, like we see the ocean orbs all the time, right? But we see the spirit orbs and all that. Because remember, I told you about spirit orbs changing into like a car and all this
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Airplane. Well, they also turn into something that's really freaky. And the first time it freaked me out, I wouldn't come out on my beach house deck for one night, maybe 2 nights. But I love it out here so much that I was like, yeah, screw it. If it comes after me, it comes after me. Now you got to see the videos that I have posted online, and I'll do more of it. But it's an orb. Oh, you imagine the orb just moving, and they're about the size of a grapefruit, about this big. And so it's moving, and all of a sudden it just turns into this creepy, crawly thing that just doesn't have wings, but it crawls through the air. Now, when I first saw it, it's like, holy crap, man! It looked like a horseshoe crab. If you ever seen that, like a
Hmm.
horseshoe crab and the
Hmm.
freaky legs.
Hmm.
And because you're trying to figure out, well, beetles and spiders and different bugs, how many appendages they have from 6 to 8 to 4, and then I found out, well, beetles have these six appendages, but they're the only insect that can look like they have four because of the way their legs are.
Mm.
And so when I started looking at this thing, like it's like this, and I've caught it on video like 8 times now, and they're all like, it's like, holy crap, man, that thing is just like, if you watch the movie The Alien, the thing that pops out of the dude's stomach and runs all over. That's what it reminds you of. But I realized through the relics, and this is the started getting blown away. There was a similarity in the relics of one um, icon or symbol that we're all used to seeing, which is a scarab.
Hmm.
So the scarab
Yeah.
on all the relics and the scarab, even the Egyptian, of how it's depicted and how it's laid out, has those four creepy legs.
Yeah.
If you look at it, but it's so similar to what the orbs do. And so I've matched it. Even in the museum, I have one video that's dedicated just to the scarab, showing it on a piece and showing the video that I've captured real time. Again, we're talking this is where me and Mike, it's like, wow, this is great. There's stuff goes back to the past that we have physical evidence. We can touch it, see it, feel it, test it. But now we're capturing stuff we're seeing. And how does this all tie in? It's like the Sanskrit and stuff of people like um, people that are the Rendlesham Forest incident where the airmen there were seeing a craft up close, and we're looking at the Sanskrit and the symbols from those times, or craft that people have witnessed up close, and we're looking at the symbols and we're matching them with the relics. It's really cool,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Taking
awesome.
matching it together. But when you see this creepy crawly thing, you realize that, gosh dang, man, they were seeing an infrared way better than my 4K commercial grade camera. And the military sees way better in infrared night vision than my cameras do. And so the aliens were seeing the same thing. There's a gentleman called Lieutenant Philip Corso. And if we look at the history, he was in charge, Lieutenant Philip Corso. He was in charge of the Foreign Technologies Group when Roswell crashed. And Foreign Technologies was taking the technology that crashed, re-engineering it by sending it out to contractors like Lockheed, DARPA, Boeing. Take your smartest guys, take this stuff, tell us how you can use it, feed it back to us, the government, for the competitive edge of the military, but let's work together. What are we seeing now? We're seeing that whole framework, right? And the top weapons in the world. It's just interesting how we came into fiber optics at a short time after the Roswell crash. That's basically using transferring energy through using light through tubes, nanotubes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're seeing the same thing now in the boogosphere, supposedly with MIT and University of Georgia, right, Mike? With this is where they're talking about the that tech being so sophisticated that it's only in their minds of what they thought of as far as fiber optics in the future.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Yeah.
right? So if you look at Lieutenant Philip Corso, he took this tech from Roswell, put it out there, makes sense how we jumped in 220 years to where we are now.
Yeah.
But what Philip Corso talks about in his interview is that these beings had a lens on their eye, like we wear contact lens and we're able to see good. They had a lens on their eye, they were able to see at night.
Mm.
What did that tell me? And we hear about the infrared, the red vision that the military used. They had to come out of the infrared red because it was seeing so many crazy crap, and they went to a different night vision instead. The military now, these beings were seeing the same thing, something
Yeah.
like an orb, that creepy crawly. It makes me think, is that what they were calling the scarab?
Yes. Yeah.
Did they see it and go, hey, you know what? That looks like a freaking beetle or some cosmic beetle bug, and it has powers and it's an orb. And maybe they had the ability to harness it in some way. I don't know. But me and Mike talk about all the time. We see these beings holding the orb in their hand, right, Mike? And
Yeah.
what is it? Why are they holding it in their hand? And which orbs are they holding? It's something really to think about,
Yeah.
It's
Two
amazing.
things. Our friend Kara just signed on, and I want to thank her because she's been to your museum.
Oh,
So
wow.
you've met our
Awesome.
friend Kara.
Thank you, Karen.
Spoke
Thank you
very
so much.
spoke very highly of the experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
And she's going to be taking your boat tour pretty soon.
Oh, wonderful.
She's also the one that said she'd love to hear you and Michael have a conversation. So I just wanted to thank her, like a shout out for suggesting it, because that's
Thank
how.
you so much, Kara.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then as you're
when you're ready to go on the tour, I'll hook you up for free. Just hit me up because you went to the museum. So we'll hook you up and I'll try to get a UFO picture with you in your kayak with a UFO coming over it.
All right, Kara, you hear that, right?
Crazy enough, I had that from 2 customers that went out a few days ago, and I was taking video shots, and we have the same one as I have the Don Cesar zooming around the towers, a rod going right over 20 people in their kayaks, pure data.
That's
amazing.
Rad.
Rad is the word for it.
Yeah.
Really.
So when you were talking a few minutes ago, I was thinking, and I already know the answer to this, but like, everyone's always asking, like, when is disclosure coming? Well, we're disclosure, like it's already happened. What we're seeing, what we're experiencing, I believe we're the beginning of it. But every single time something new comes along, or we catch something, or have an idea of what it is, unfortunately, humans immediately turn it into, how can we use this in war? How can we use this against our enemy? So we're cockblocking disclosure constantly because we're always trying to use that tech for the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
And everyone that I talk to, like both of you, there's a kindness and a goodness that always comes through. So the more knowledge and research about this information, I find that it's always like really good people that are interested in this. And so I'm grateful and thank you, for being still holding on to what's most important and researching, and like being open to like the spiritual side and the extrasensory, the multidimensional part of it. We can't ignore that part, but that's what makes us kinder. That's what has brought this to the forefront. The reason we're all talking about this now, we're clearly ready for it at this level of disclosure with these conversations. But until the military or people who just want to win and the competitive part or ego, until ego is removed, we're not going to, or they're going to come in such a way that it's going to be like, look, if you guys continue to be dicks, we're not, this is it. Like, we'll show you something, we're here, and we're going to go away until everybody behaves. Like, I don't know. I'm not anti protecting us. I'm not anti defense in because there's no way to get around that, right? But I don't know. It's so much greater than us, and I just wish that that was more. There was more importance on that part and less importance on the I need to I need to own this before another country owns this. You know?
Yeah.
Well, bringing awareness one person at a time, I think that's really the key. Um,
Yeah.
and it's so sad with everything that happens with just the greed and big corporate and things that they've done to put those control measures in place. I mean, we could talk about one person, Tesla, and we can talk about what he was doing for energy. And when you talk about stuff like that, and you see in these relics um, things that they've done, which seems to be harnessing free energy, using crystals and the pyramids and the different things that we just have lost or don't understand, or maybe it was hidden from us, right? Maybe it was hidden from us for that particular reason, so we can bring in billions of dollars, and then we can use that money and give it to certain politicians.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the inventions are incredible. I mean, the fact that we're doing this right now is because of crystals and our phones and I'm not saying that I want to give all that up, but I really I'm just really glad that we can have these conversations on. Let me start over. So, David, you're offering experiences. You're offering the opportunity for people to realize that there's more than they've been programmed to believe, and Michael, you're sharing fascinating, inarguable artifact. Well, you both are inarguable artifacts to encourage people to expand their consciousness. That is going to bring what we are calling disclosure closer. When people are waking up and acknowledging the magic and the profound and the beauty of it, and instead of allowing fear to block it, because as soon as you bring up attacks and war and whether it's outer space or here, that's where the fear comes in. But so thank you both for being leaders in this part of our community.
Well, I'm
Being open
humbled. My
is
pleasure.
really key. I think that open-mindedness is something that we have to really, really pay attention to, because it's so easy to pick and decide and be closed, just closed. It happens on all kinds of things, on good thing, food, whatever. I might not go ever try that new restaurant because I was always just kind of, I don't know if I want to go in there,
Yeah.
But I did that. There was this place, and for 7 years I lived there, never tried it, and then we tried it after we moved away, and it was just some of the best I've ever had. So yeah,
Man.
open mind is, I think, the real takeaway wisdom from this whole thing of disclosure and understanding. It's a multi-layered topic that's going to require a lot of time, and I think the spiraling that could occur if we knew the truth completely today, it would be so much panic and questioning and doubt that it would cause so much fear. And I mean, even just with the War of the Worlds thing that happened back in the 30s or whatever, I mean, you see this type of spiral. So there could be absolutely protections involved. The mystery might be there for more than we know.
Yeah.
Well, and
yeah.
Project Blue Book and all the different Blue Beam and all the different pieces that go with that.
Yeah.
You probably remember the mall incident in Florida a few years ago.
Big
like
time.
That's
there
probably
was
a
so
great
much talk of that.
Probably a great example of Blue Beam right there. There was also something that happened. Gosh, I don't know if you remember this, Mike. It was about a year ago.
Las Vegas.
No, it was actually in Alabama. And out of all places, why not pick the Bible Belt, right? To show a big Jesus standing there. And so there was a big hologram. But it was Jesus, but you could hear people going, "Oh my God, praise Jesus," and this and that. And so, it's amazing. My mind really thought, and I go, well, you know what? If you're going to put a big Jesus there somewhere, where would you put it in the world to get a response? Bible Belt's a really good place.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the one that's in what?
Just Google Alabama and look at the religious.
Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil too. But if you Google Alabama and you look at all the states and their religious participation, Yeah,
Yeah.
Alabama's a really big one, man. That's why they call it the Bible Belt, those areas.
Well, isn't it interesting that people will accept that because it is in their comfort zone and in their programming. But
Miracle.
then you hold up your artifacts that are mind blowing and beautiful, and I'm sure it probably invokes fear or disbelief. Oh, so you'll believe a hologram of Jesus, but you won't believe this object that I'm holding in my hand that I can prove was unearthed from the ground, and you know tested to be 10 to 12,000 years ago or old. Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah.
Really is. Well, when you think about the logic too, like for example, some of these, like our Mike, directly, there's a lot of cavities that are underground 20, 30 feet. And so when you see shows like, what's the one, Oak Island, The Curse of Oak Island, where they've been trying to uncover this treasure for years and they're using LADAR and sonar. Well, think about this. We did not have that type of equipment until
Yeah,
commercially available until not too long ago.
right.
Yeah.
And so that ground penetration sonar radar wasn't available. We weren't meant to find a lot of those things, if you really think about it, until the time was right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's logic. That's
It
logic.
is.
So the timing is right, and it couldn't. When you look at the release of the UAP files from the government, the UAP Task Force, and what they have been set out to do, it's an amazing time in our lives. But I think it's to the point where they just realized they couldn't hide it anymore, right?
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
mean, think about one thing is we're like Antarctica and the Arctics. We have snow cap. We have snow melt like never before.
Right. Oh, I talk about the
You can't throw a tarp on everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think about that all the time. How in the next 10 years we're about to discover so many species that we weren't aware of because of
Oh yeah.
the melting in Antarctica, but also it was a thriving jungle
Yeah.
thousands of years ago, like through ice core
Yes,
samples. Like,
yes,
can
it
you
does.
imagine what we're gonna? We think we're finding relics now. We're gonna find
Oh yeah.
cultures and
Wow.
civilizations that,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So, someone's
pyramids.
gonna find it. We might
wow.
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll find
It's
it.
just exciting to think about.
I,
The
I
You
I
guys have
potential.
been tapped. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
I've seen from credible sources pictures of artifacts that were found back in like the 60s and 70s in
Hmm.
Antarctica. So I mean,
Bird,
I I,
Admiral Bird. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there's absolutely a lot more to come from there. And these beings looked much different, much more like monstrosity type giants. Like they were massive.
Yeah, and I've heard from people that I have a lot of respect for, that there are still some very negative associations, or they've through uh, remote viewing or things like that, that there's a constant pickup of like negativity, and I
Mhm.
don't know. I believe them. I believe that what they're sharing is their truth, and I'm not denying or doubting that. But I also get this feeling that some of that might be to block us because we're not ready for what's coming. Not in a
Yeah.
negative way,
Yeah.
but there's only so much that we're going to be that we like Dolores Cannon said, you have to be spoon fed in order to get there, and we can't. I know I've had experiences that have just taken me completely out. Like a solar eclipse can totally knock you out and give you fatigue for days.
Yeah.
And so what are we thinking? Like, if an alien walks in the room, it's going to affect you. Besides the fact that you'll never be the same again, it's going to affect every part of your being. And so if we get what we're asking for, we're not going to be able to handle it. But if we slowly dig up artifacts and have conversations and decipher petroglyphs, and maybe come up with some new Rosetta Stones, I don't know,
Yeah.
we we will get there because we're learning at the right pace, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and we're using it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I could agree with that for sure. I mean, you look at where Hollywood has led us.
And
Yeah.
it's now almost completely shut down too. So it's
Well,
feeding upon
right.
itself.
right? And it started with what was the first one that really started with people were into Independence Day with Will Smith, right? Wasn't that one of the ones where people were getting blown up and this and that and this and that? But it's interesting. I mean, again, these are just movies. The last one with Steven Spielberg and what is it, Disclosure Day,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, I didn't watch.
Kevin
Did you guys watch that?
Yep.
we actually got
It was okay.
an invite, um, um, a special invite to the screening by Universal Pictures. It was pretty cool.
Oh,
So we got to go a few days ahead of it,
yeah.
which was interesting because that whole thing of it was more symbolism for us, which we found to be interesting with the deer and the buck, steer, and the whole thing. You got to look at one of my posts because it goes back into a church that I found with the same buck and the deer and all this crazy stuff. So, yeah, but we saw the movie as more symbolism. Me and Arturo went there, which is crazy. How it led into stuff the very next day. That there's a lot of stuff. There was an orb
So
that
you had some synchronicities after watching it. Is that what you're
big
saying?
time.
Okay.
Well, we've had synchronicities from the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And it's all been numbers. It was 111 at first. He would get the 111. I would get the 111. We'd see it everywhere on our phones and texts and everything else. And then it became 12. And then this orb appeared that blinked 12 times. And then he had a rainbow colored orb that appeared on, was it, Mike, La Guadalupe Mountain in Mexico? I always get that one confused. La Guadalupe?
Zikuku?
The mountain near him?
Yeah,
I thought
Zikuku.
it was the Mary or something, Virgin Mary or La Guadalupe. But he had
Oh,
12
I'm not sure.
rainbow colored orbs appear on the top. And then that same day, when I drop him off the airport, he's telling me about the 12. I'm saying the 12. Why are we seeing 12? It just was crazy. The 12 led us to finding out St. Petersburg was sacred holy land. Me and Mike talked about Tula already, Hidalgo being kind of sacred holy land. And we realized that the first Mass in the first Eastern United States was held in St. Petersburg. And the first bishop of Florida was appointed in 1528, all here in St. Petersburg. So we're kind of wondering, does that have anything to do with the UFOs we're seeing in these beings?
Yeah.
It kind of goes into sacred holiness. Did they have help us establish religions? Did they guide us from Joan of Arc to George Washington and the messages that were heard from all these people? And it's amazing. You think if something has a higher intelligence and they want good for us or to lead us away from catastrophic events, that might happen.
Yeah.
Hey, if I had the ability to guide people to goodness, I would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, I think I agree with you. And I believe I get the strong sense that they are going to help us lead ourselves to ourselves, like the good, like, if you know what I mean, like lead us to our own goodness. And that's going to be a big part of disclosure too. Have you looked up the ley lines in St. Petersburg?
Yes, I've absolutely looked up the ley lines. There's nothing to do with it. At least not from what I can see. Okay. But when you start to get the confirmation and justification from DC, like Congresswoman Luna, and going live on Fox and showing that map, our area is the hottest spot in the country now. And then going live on the Benny Show and saying Pinellas County, my county, is a hot spot on record. There's a lot to that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to that really.
Do you have any really old buildings that have a metal spire on top by chance?
Well, so we got the Don Cesar next door from where I live at my beach house. It's probably a block away from where I live. And so I've always wondered, it's a very old building. It used to be a hospital back in the days of World War II, I believe. It was a long time ago. Could have been one. They used it as a hospital for a short time. It has a lot of spiritual history to it.
Because
it's a preserved historical marker now.
Because if you connect, I would do. I mean, you have your own research that you're doing, but you've already looked up the ley lines, and then if you look up buildings that have that type of like a metal structure, right? Everything from the pyramids with the cap. What am I trying to say? The capstone. and pulling the ether down through the capstone or through the metal spire, there's always water. There's always a connection with water that's part of the process of pulling ether and working with ether.
Mhm.
So that probably has a lot to do with why you have so much focus and energy in your location. And I'm sure of course, there's other places close to the water that probably have the same amount, but you're pushing information out and getting results and getting attention, and so it's being acknowledged, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's a few things, okay, so we're looking at, because again, it's getting to the answers, right? Connecting the dots, okay? Ignorance is bliss, but I want to know. And so when it comes down to it and you look at what's in our area, well, so the sand has a strong
Quartz.
content of crystal quartz.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know they could be attracted to crystals. The other thing is SAC is here, Strategic Air Command, MacDill Air Force Base. And so when you're looking at Strategic Air Command, we know in the past, in other situations, and people that have been in the armed forces, like Malmstrom Air Force Base and the nuclear incident where the UFOs appeared over nuclear missiles and silos, deactivated them, and so on and so forth, and activated them in Russia supposedly, where they triggered them. So we know there's obviously a military interest, right? There's going to be, especially if you're a species that flies around, you want to know what weapons the primitives have. Okay. And supposedly we can get really, really deep if you want to go into Skywatcher and Jake Barber and UAP Retrievals, David Goresh. And these are people you have to believe, though. They aren't, I talk about UFO stories. Of course, they have some credibility and background that's checked out and verified, Luis Elizondo. But again, we just have to believe those stories. But if you do believe what they're talking about, you're talking about a UAP retrieval program that our government has that is using microwave weapons to take down just a small fraction number of these craft. And if that is correct, then you're able to back engineer for the competitive edge of our military.
Yeah.
And isn't that what we've all been talking about? Our
Yeah.
warmongering species and race and what we're all about, right? Unfortunately, you can believe them or not. But when you see and you watch the interview with Ross Coulthart and Jake Barber, now you know that Skywatch is working for the government. They're not independent. They went the other way. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
But when you look at those videos of that egg retrieval that he had from the helicopter, and people go, oh, it's fake. Well, we can all look. I mean, I have time date stamp video, but I get so much scrutiny on everything. And like you said, you can believe or you can not believe. I can lead you to the water, but I can't force you to drink. And so it's going to come down to that. The same thing with Barber. And they got just crucified, him and Ross Coulthart, on a lot of that stuff. As you know, Mike, it came out. And unfortunately, but when you look at the facts and who they're working for now, and Skywatch, and it makes a lot of sense that they're going to look at our weaponry. And you look at SAC and Strategic Air Command around here, it does make a lot of sense. They're going to keep in touch with headquarters and stuff like that. Now, do I believe that's why they're around here? No. I think it has something to do with the sacred Holy Land, something more geophysical, geographic potentially, which could have the crystal quartz contents and stuff or ley lines that we're talking about. But I believe it absolutely has to do with energy.
Bermuda Triangle, man.
Energy.
Yeah.
It's that triangle. Huh?
I think about that all the time. Yeah. I'm fascinated by that. So, okay, I want to ask you guys, but in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you your opinions on underwater labs. But Kara, the one that was able to take the tour at your museum, she said, has Dave spoken of the church that has the flying saucer on it? So do you want to share that with us, Dave?
Yeah. So that's what I was kind of touching on earlier. Okay. So this is really, wow. It's an amazing, amazing experience and story, because it's happening to me directly, and it's happened through things that we would think about of how things would be interpreted to you by numbers, by geometry, which is a universe, right? I mean, if you think about it, that's the universe. So it would make sense they're leading me through numbers like 12. Now it's 27. And when I Google 27, it's like every time I do something that seems to be correct, especially spiritually, I see the number 27. I mean, I see it like 4 or 5 times a day. It's one time if you're just looking for a number like 2 or 7 or 1,
Yeah.
right? Just one digit. But when you see a double combination like that and you see it constantly, and it becomes more than coincidence. The fact, my football number is 27. It's just all this stuff. It's just crazy how it works out. Now, when I was studying here and the infrared and the camera that we use, which is right here and it catches them all right out here, and there'll be millions of them, and you can't feel them, and they're not bugs hitting you or anything. Again, we've already established we feel they're spirit orbs. Now, there was one video that I had where one flew into my back, and this would sound crazy to anybody, but all I can tell you is look at the video. I put it out everywhere, and this freaking orb that I've been studying, that seems they have some sort of astral projection when they move. It's like an astral, and you can see it. It's like a secondary body that propels them, almost like they're in an astral, ethereal type of state or world, right? But one flies right in my back. You see it so clear. Doesn't get right. And when I saw it, I was fearful because I was like, what in the heck just happened? So I prayed, grabbed the cross, please, of any negative entities, evil entities, banish them, and so on and so forth. So maybe 2 days passed. Arturo was in town at that time, and we were leaving for the airport. We were literally driving him to the airport, 45 minutes away from where I live in St. Pete Beach to Tampa. And in that 45 minutes, I started to get all types of information in my head. It was so crazy because it led to the orb that blinked right here, the surveillance orb, and it's in the sky. I just did a post on it. It blinked 12 times. But I never thought to count it until like a month later. But I realized it was 12 freaking times that it blinked. And then when he showed me the rainbow orbs on the mountain when he flew back the last time, he said there were 12 of them. He goes, Dave, there were 12 of them. We were driving in the car. And all of a sudden that 12, and I thought, well, the 12 apostles, and this has some sort of spiritual meaning to it. Then all of a sudden my mind thought of St. Petersburg, where I lived. I've lived for 15 years. And I've always thought, why does St. Petersburg have its name? And I thought, well, is there a lot of Russians that live here because St. Petersburg, Russia? But there isn't. And so if you Google it, just Google the religious significance of St. Petersburg, Florida, and it will blow your freaking mind. And when it talks about
there's homework.
Stone of religious American history, they call this place the city of churches. I didn't even know that. And then there was one church that stood out called the Mother Church listed. And that Mother Church was the Cathedral of St. Jude the Apostle in St. Petersburg. And so right away I went, what is telling me to go to this church? And so I went to, right after I dropped him off the airport, I told her, I got to go to this church, man, and check it out. And I did, right after I dropped him off. And amazing enough, I do a video on this. Before he left to the airport, there was a UFO appeared right over the skyline. It was brighter than this, and I have video of it. And it transformed into these crosses and squares. And interesting enough, we took of it, crosses, like the whole we have in our museum. A yellow one, a green one. It has a disc shape it appeared into, but it turns into all these other squares and type of shapes. Well, amazing enough, some of those crazy shapes were on the outside of this church when I went to it, that UFO was showing me. Crazy.
I feel like, and this has to be the same reason that Scientology
now, here's where it gets crazier.
Is headquartered in Clearwater. They had
right.
to
So is this the battlegrounds
thing
for Scientology and religion, man? I just love what you just said. You really have taken me a new area of research. That's very interesting. She says that because there is a religious battle going here. Clearwater is Scientology land, and they're owning it and saying, oh my gosh.
Wow.
It's wild there.
We might have just put something together here of this battle is being right here, right now, being done between two different organizations. I never thought about that, why this might be it, right? And how big Scientology is and how big the Christian church. I'm not going to talk about Scientology too much, but as far as what happened after, it led me to this church, and I took the video of it. You'll see it on my channel, UfoWebCam. It's freaking mind-blowing because I'm like, holy crap, this UFO that appeared at sunset right here that we recorded, these symbols that it showed us is on this freaking church window. And I was blown away. And I felt right after I dropped him off the airport. So from there, I went into the church and videotaped. And that's where I saw, there's more things, guys. There was a symbol there with an upside down dove. Okay. And I have a lady that works for me that's a medium, and she did a card. What do you call those cards that they draw? I've never done it before.
Tarot.
Right. She did one of those on me at the museum, and I've never done in one in my life. Never. And she's like, Dave, let me just pull this up for you. And one of the cards was that same dove upside down that matched that church of where Jesus is, of the upside down dove. A card that I pulled, only 5 cards, right? It just goes deep like this. The movie that I watched with Steven Spielberg in Disclosure Day had that buck, that deer buck, as a main alien, 12 points on his head. That UFO window in that church had, and we just watched a movie in the night before, had 12 points. It had 6 of those bucks, and all of them had 12 points on the same glass with the UFO hat on it. So we all know it's a hat, a green hat shaped like a UFO. Okay, but what's crazy is on the top of that church cross, there's also a disc, and I show it in my videos, that looks like a silver UFO disc on the cross. We're just blown away. Like, what could be the coincidence of this? From the UFO out on the water showing us symbols that are on the outside of this church, I go in, I lead to all this. So we study and find out the guy who created the hat, Pope Innocent IV, in the year 1245, and he was in Rome. And it just so happens in that same year, on record, they were seeing miracles and UFOs in the sky. The same year that Pope Innocent IV made that hat.
Yeah. Wow. I've heard a lot of parallels between the Pope's hats and
Speculation,
symbolism.
theory. Can we say
Yeah.
that he might have seen a miracle in the sky and said, man,
Yeah.
I'm not going to create just a board. What the hell? Did you see that? Man, there was something that just came through. I don't know what the hell that was.
Well, David,
a UFO on video.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
One of the most important things about synchronicity that a lot of people miss is not only are you noticing things because you have good pattern recognition, right? But what in
repetitive data.
But even more important, your intuition inside you is telling you to look for things, and it's telling you to connect. So we may see 11:11, but what made you look at 11:11 to look over at the clock, right? So you need to give yourself.
But when you see this number 27, but then you see, for example, my buddy Mike over here that I need to tie in, his birthday's on the 27th, for example.
Yeah.
You see? And then it's like, wow, this 27th has been showing to me, even though Mike's birthday isn't on the 27th. I'm just giving a hypothetical.
Yeah. It must be a different Mike.
Yeah.
But you see how that can tie in.
Oh, yeah.
Go,
no, but
wow,
when you're seeing it,
now.
When you see it 4 times a day, especially after something important that happens for you, it's a confirmation. And those confirmations sometimes are the hardest because you don't have a witness, or you're like, is it just me? But that
it's more than coincidence. So
it's way more than coincidence.
I better follow this path. And that is exactly what's happening now.
Well, synchronicity is letting you know that you're in exactly the right place where you're supposed to be. That's really what the biggest confirmation of synchronicity is.
Well, I think the craziest part is I'm actually getting confirmation by these little spirit orbs. And so my last videos, if you've seen, I asked them, hey, if I do this certain thing, can you give me a yes or no? And one appears and runs around a rose quartz that I have.
Why? Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that?
Yeah, that was cool.
It's like, what in the heck, man?
Yeah. You know? It likes the good energy of the rose quartz.
The rose quartz. And well, there's a follow-up video we did because there were 2 people in the house with me, Jeannie and Jake at that time. And we didn't post that follow-up video. It's about 45 seconds, but it was like, tell me about the rose quartz now. And so Jeannie just read off about the rose quartz. And it was cool what it says about the rose quartz, about completion and hope and healing. And you know, I'm going through a breakup right now of a fiance, and so it's just like it's been really hard for me.
Yeah.
And so I prayed and I asked for guidance, I asked for help, and then I go to church, to the same church with the UFO, because I've been going there, right? And I haven't posted the video, but when I went there this last week, these white orbs appeared, and right before I walked in, I got video of them. It was amazing. And ever since that day, and I prayed, I've been seeing these white orbs. That's like the one that you saw around the crystal. Now my mind and research is going, holy smokes, God, Jesus related. Are these the angels that we talked about, that people saw in books in the past? And that's what they related to it. And I'm seeing it. But it's white because I am seeing darkness. There's been darkness. And so you could really see the black and the white and the darkness and the light. And it's just amazing that I'm actually capturing this stuff on video. It's just
and give yourself credit for being attracted to rose quartz and having it in your house, and just realizing that you're attracted to it and bringing it into your atmosphere, and then years later finding out the definition of it.
Well, honestly, I was testing it with it, because that's what I first started testing with the the UFOs, is bringing them in with crystal energy. And so I started testing with all type of minerals. That's how it all started. And they were being attracted to the minerals because I've heard of tests in places and like, places in Peru and Chile and different places that had a lot of different type of mineral content, like
Mm-hmm.
these rare earth elements and minerals we talk about. And I realized they were possibly attracted to that. And so that's
Mhm.
where I started testing with that. It's only until I ran into Arturo that I go, holy smokes, man, I got to get one of these relics to test with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like a kid in a candy shop. I was like, I couldn't wait for me to get the first one. And when I tested with the first relic, things changed.
Yeah.
It escalated.
So,
No doubt.
Michael, have you had any supernatural or anything unexplained um, experiences with your relics?
Nope. No, I went down to Sedona even to try to find some. I took relics down there. My buddy sees them all the time,
Yeah.
and had the night vision. Saw maybe a couple. I couldn't really capture anything, and no, it seems to be really evasive. When I was a little kid, maybe like 11 or something, I saw what I thought was like a green and red flashing orb flying through the sky. I mean, kind of wrote it off as it had to be a helicopter, but it moved so weird.
Yeah.
It just wasn't right compared to every other helicopter I'd seen. So, yeah, I don't know, but that's nothing supernatural yet.
Well, as kids, we are who we are before the world told us who we should be. And so I think kids witness a lot more because they're open to it, and
Oh,
the
yeah,
fact that you still remember it, has
Well,
kept you
I
yeah.
open.
haven't told Mike this, and I'm dying to tell him. Mike, I haven't told you this,
Please
man.
tell them.
Yeah, I'll tell you right here. So in our museum, we have a room called the dark room, and it's where we just have the lights off. We blacked out the windows, and we have black lights that we have at the entrance of the room. And so people grab the black lights to go into the dark room, and then they shine it on the relics that are in there that have that glow effect, right? Now I have 16 security cameras in my museum, and there's obviously one in every room. So as I'm watching last week, one of my employees and a guest in the dark room, there's orbs flying. And I'm like, holy smokes, man, there's orbs flying in there. And there was like three or four. And so after the customer left, taking the museum tour, Mike was by himself. Not the Mike we're talking to, my employee guy over there. I said, hey man, Mike, go back into the room, the dark room, and I'm talking to him on the phone. And I record every bit of this for 5 minutes. And I tell him to go in there, and it's gonna be mind blowing when I show it. I tell him to say certain things like what I do when I call UFOs. I'll say, look, please grace us with your presence. We ask that you show yourself and a few other things. And he started, I said, repeat this, dude. And he repeated it. And you can hear it. All this is recorded. Why I'm telling him what to say from my house on phone while he's at the museum and I'm watching him on camera. And these orbs start flying when he starts affirming
That's so
in
cool.
certain nations. And one even flies behind his leg. And you can hear me on my end go, oh my God, dude, one just went in front of you. One went in front of you.
Yeah.
It was back of your leg. And so I can't wait to post this from the museum of showing those orbs, the same ones that I've seen attracted here.
Hmm.
And so Mike probably got a big orb research center going on in his house. You just don't know it. He hasn't told you. He hasn't revealed the thousands of videos he has or something.
Yeah.
Because I can't believe he's not getting stuff going on. But that's why I want Mike to come over and work with me down here. We are going to get together. We're going to do a book signing at my museum for him. He's got some amazing information and knowledge that he's got to get out. And I think the Relic Museum is a perfect place to do that, to have his book signing. And we'll have a talking event there and stuff like that here in the near future. So very
I
excited.
look
Yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good man. I've been wanting to come down here and do research. Now I'm single and he's still married. It's like, damn, man, dude, yeah, you gotta break off, man. Dude. We gotta
Now
break
my
off.
wife's
Get
for surely
down
going to
here.
come. Yeah.
Oh, of course she is. You're on the beach, man. You know that's a given, dude. So,
Last week, I was listening to a 100th episode, the 100th episode on Acid for Squares, and they featured George Nori.
I was in the
You know,
audience.
wow.
I
oh, that
contacts in the desert.
I contacted the desert. That's
Yeah.
cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so do you remember he brought up the story because they said what's a memorable story, and he said a woman came up to me and said we need a we need a dating site for people like
That's
us,
his employee.
right?
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And he's like,
That's
we do, because she said she was on a date, things were going good. She brought up Bigfoot and the guy took off. And so he created on Coast to Coast, he created Paranormal Date.
Oh
And it's
wow.
free. So when you're ready, David, that would be a good opportunity for you to,
Wow,
you know,
no doubt, right? Well, man, you
yeah.
never know why the guy left. He could have had big feet too. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he
He's
thought
like,
he was
she
straight.
knows.
He might have thought she was directly referencing him or something, and said,
Yeah.
"Oh man,
That's funny. Yeah. That's funny. I Very cool. Okay. Wow, we've been talking for an hour 45 minutes. Thank you for both of your
Yes.
time. I am
my pleasure." Yeah.
I am super curious about what you think about underwater labs. And also, Michael, have you noticed anything on your artifacts, since you have so many, of where you've speculated if it's a lab or inside something where they're working on something? Like, do you
Very
have?
much so.
Okay,
Very much
okay,
so.
we can
Yeah. I
start
mean,
with you.
full on surgery scenes with
Yeah.
Thoth and Anubis and multiple gray aliens working around a table doing different types of like mummification and embalming. There's sacrifice where they have the dagger with Thoth literally holding the dagger above a person and the top of a pyramid and all kinds of stuff like that. As far as the underwater bases go, there are some pretty futuristic looking city type things. They almost look like the Jetsons, where they're like on the like the Space Needle type things.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily underwater, but this whole Atlantis thing really brings and we do find mermaids and we find
Mhm.
beings with gills and fins on the side of their heads. So that whole underwater. Um, I would just say
Theme.
there's a lot more under the water probably than what we know for sure.
Yeah. Yes. So have you looked into it, David? If there are any military underwater labs
Oh,
close to you?
absolutely, absolutely. And so, going back to what Mike's talking about, it's very fascinating when he talks about, the scales and the fins and the gills and all that, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
do DNA manipulation right now. And so, again, let's go back to that thousands of years of technology ahead of us. If we're in 220 years of modern man technology and we're already doing what we're able to do in DNA and create and clone people and babies and whatever else we're able to do, animals,
Yeah.
what the heck do you think they're able to do with thousands of years? Now, I think they could actually have an advanced DNA manipulation. And imagine to where, and how much would we save the world if we had the ability of advanced DNA manipulation to where you live somewhere and you say, "Hey, I want to head to this area. I'm just going to grow wings and fly over there."
Yeah.
And then when you get to the beach, you just say, "Hey, I'm going to grow a tail and grow gills and go swimming." How much pollution would we save on exhaust and carbon dioxide? Think about
Yes.
it, even from that standpoint, right?
Yes. It's
Of that,
excellent.
it would
Yeah.
save so much in cars and pollution and all that. It's just crazy to think about. So yes, that could be real. We see it on the relics. That DNA manipulation right there, we know it existed absolutely. But as far as bases, now let's get into this. It'll be very short because we don't have deep enough waters in the Gulf of America or Gulf of Mexico is how I've been raised. I don't even get into those words anymore. I just call it the Gulf. But in the Gulf, there's something called the middle grounds where you have to go literally like 200 miles out and farther to get in hundreds of feet of water. And so we don't support a deep enough depth to be an underwater base in the Gulf of Mexico. That would make sense why I'm seeing the portals that I've captured 5 times that relate to the Book of Enoch. And I got with Anna Paulina Luna, and I said, man,
Hmm. Oh.
Oh no.
Uh oh, his phone died.
Oh
That's what I was gonna
no.
say.
Here, I'll show this in the meantime. You might want to bring it big for this.
Yes, I do.
Oh yeah.
This thing's crazy. So it's got this vat of DNA, and you've got this guy here, which, if you notice, his face is split into two. We see this dualistic perception where one face is one way, or one side of the face is one way, one is the
Yeah.
other. There's a being here that's being harnessed
Yeah.
from this DNA, like the stuff's
Whoa.
coming down onto this being, and you've got Thoth here holding the being, and then this guy here assisting Thoth with an Anubis hat on. So maybe there was beings that were dressing up as these deities, or
Yeah.
being these deities, and that's why we have all these different names for all these different people, but inside there are all these beings that potentially did this type of manipulation. But then you see here holding the DNA above is the pharaoh like being, and then the
Wow.
aurora boreas there.
Wow.
Quite the piece for sure.
Yeah. Like,
And this piece was found,
Yeah.
and he acted like it was like
Wow.
really no big deal. The guy, well, because it like rolled around, and I don't think he really understood it. A lot of the
yeah.
people down there haven't really gone this deep into Egyptian and Mesopotamian history. So, nonetheless, he sold it to me very cheap, and I got it, and it sat there and rolled around on my desk for a few days. A couple months later, he messages me and says, brother, I found the base for it. And he's digging another hole nearby where this was found, and he found a large stone base that had quite the depictions on it, and he just sends it to me for free. Like,
Wow.
he
Oh,
knew
that's
it was for
cool.
this piece. And what's crazy
Yeah.
about it though is that this base, I mean, it's stone, and so to get it to like fit this uneven non-round ball perfectly on this thing, like the ball only sits on it one way, otherwise it'll fall off, and it wobbles, and like, so it's just really bizarre. Like, it was clearly made for this sphere.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
cool. And there was something in him that knew that the pieces had to be together. That's so
Yeah,
cool. I think
yeah.
it's really interesting how okay, so you said earlier there's only a handful of people that have the amount of artifacts that you have. So it's so interesting who like I wonder who you are. I of like and like pulling back objectively, like why is it you and Dave and other people who it's like you were tapped in to be part of our like moving civilization ahead. And I know that sounds like huge, and I'm not trying to give you false importance, but
No.
like it, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're doing something that very few people are capable of doing or interested. Like you're almost you almost have like a shamanistic role in this alien artifact, and it's like you're
I
the right
am the weed
person.
guy.
Yeah, you're the weed guy. Well, and you're humble. You know, you're humble, so I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. You're an excellent researcher. But have you thought about that? Like, why is it me and this handful of other people?
I was supposed to be Stephen Christopher was my first and middle name. My parents had this picked out before I was born. For
Yeah,
months they knew what the name was going to be, and then I came out on the delivery table, and they both looked at each other, and they're like, he's not a Stephen Christopher. And then they both were like, they had the same simultaneous name of Michael. And so there's interesting things that have popped up through my life with that name specifically, and the connection that it has. So it's interesting, going up against the red dragon, metaphorically speaking. By definition, that is kind of exactly what I'm doing with this type of research and bringing this forward, because of the satanic nature of these pieces, and
yeah,
how we've seen so many of that type of, that era, I should say, the pre-flood, or maybe
hmm
not satanic, but the era that was corrupted by the fallen, I should say. And
hmm
so that's an interesting symbology that would carry with that. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, hard to buy into any of that. I wasn't religious or anything, so to think that I'm like some reincarnation, or like some people feel
hmm
that way, or have had past lives, it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around it.
There's
um
something though, because like
but
why
but
would
there
certain
could be, yeah.
yeah, you're a
Yeah, it's
keeper.
weird, it's
You're a
weird.
keeper, and not only that, but you treat the everything with such respect, and you're so aware of how it comes to you and who's involved in, and like you're I'm sure part of it is just, you're constantly you want to protect yourself, you want to do the right thing, you don't want to upset anything, but I don't it's interesting. It's so interesting. Like I'm so curious why you and a few other people are the ones that are drawn to this, and like there's it's got to be something in your DNA or your you know like
it's
your
it's
energy.
it's it's just it's prophetic in sense, like this has all been said to have, it's going to happen too, like people have predicted this. There's the Edgar Casey stuff, there's tons. Dolores Cannon, you mentioned earlier, I mean many people, JJ Hertog,
Mhm.
um hundreds and hundreds of people actually have prophesized that these stone objects would surface at one point, and that it would be a in JJ's book it talks about these time warp portals all over the world that would be discovered, where there would be evidence of not just the fallen, but also of the divine. And I think we
Mhm.
see that clearly, especially with the difference between the Abuelos depictions and the Tula depictions. One seems far darker than the other, even though both are telling us the same story. And, we find one at the Hill of the Bull and one at the Hill of the Owl. And I think that's as terms of if we were making a pilgrimage and religious pilgrimage, we would stop here to offer darker pieces to this god, and we would go over here and offer lighter pieces here, and some areas, if there was portals and that sort of thing, that's been definitely talked about in the Mesopotamian culture quite a bit. In fact, there's conspiracies and stuff that's what the ziggurats and things that they found as they were excavating them related to, and we found very similar Stargate type things that look like they're straight out of the movie. And so these time warp portal predictions could be really something that has an ancient use. And so you mentioned the ley lines and stuff earlier, and you can see this band that goes around the world that has all these megalithic sites, and they're
Mhm.
they're 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 concentrated on it heavier than anything else. So
Mhm.
I really feel there is a like a crystal grid in a sense. I mean, we
Mhm.
use crystals in that fashion, and
Mhm.
I think it's something that scales up as well. And that's what some of these sacred sites are built, and that's why there's so much quartz and different materials in the pyramid. Why there's certain layers of granite, and they're
Mhm.
clearly almost like an antenna of energy. And you guys
Mhm.
were talking earlier with the plasma and being
Mhm.
able to draw this down.
Mhm.
China just a couple of years ago came up with these scans that showed these massive pockets of plasma above the pyramids. Kind of got scraped under the rug, but it's very
Mm.
interesting. This was a USA Today type or whatever. I mean, a quality
Yeah.
news agency that reported this. It wasn't something questionable, but I guess all news is questionable.
Yeah.
But it was something that I felt like it was not a BS post by any means.
Mhm.
And so seeing that there was these massive pockets up there, that might be the reason for the position of them, or maybe caused by the pyramids still, because of
Mhm.
their energy and what they're doing. They could be ready to draw it in if the capstone was permitted there. It could be drawing it all like a storm. There's things that bring in the clouds and the storms and that type of energy. So to think that that's impossible in that plasma level is probably foolish at this point.
I love all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
The Tartarians too, with all the cathedrals and things that were all in arraignments and type stuff with energy as well, I think
Mhm.
has. They
Massive
got rid of
ties to
all
the
the
ether.
bells. All
Mhm.
the bells were gone, and there's
Mhm.
now people talking that these bells like helped ward off demons, and so they
Mhm.
were in all these schools and in these places like churches, and it would help ward off the demons. And so it's odd to see them get rid of this, and to see the corruption in some of these industries that we do, or not necessarily industries, but organizations maybe, or something, just
Mhm.
things getting corrupted. Maybe schools are definitely a very corrupt place at this point, but it wasn't always like that
Yeah.
at one point. So it's interesting to see that fall of man go into that direction. All these shootings and violence and stuff
Yeah.
didn't used to happen. It really didn't.
I know. Yeah, well, that's why we seek out the mystery schools now. We have a friend named Jan who gave she was on a few months ago, and she uh, greatly spoke on the bells, and I
Oh,
learned so much on that episode. Yeah, about how they were there's, if I remember correctly, most of them were buried,
yeah,
which
or
is
melted
what?
down for the
Yeah.
wars. Yeah,
Yeah, yes, yeah, and I mean, I understand that part, but yeah,
yeah,
like
landfill.
but it but it's like we find the chambers for toning and frequency, and they were believed that they were healing chambers. The
Yeah,
bells are a huge part of that, you know?
yeah.
Our friend pointed out that there's a chance that you put the objects where they're being discovered, and that's why the artifacts are coming back to you. That's a cool theory.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
that is something that the people down there told me, is that these objects find who they need to go to, and for whatever
Hmm.
reason, that seems to be really accurate. There's, like Dave was talking about synchronicities earlier,
Hmm.
and this is a real factor. I mean, the synchronicities on this whole adventure for me and for many other people, it's
Well, if
really,
you
it'll drive you nuts if you're not careful, you know.
Yeah, it's the formula, which I never remember to say correctly. Bashar explains the formula. When you follow your passion, you find out what brings you joy. You follow that, it turns into your passion, and then you just keep going. And that just
Yeah,
leads to all these synchronicities because you're vibrating on a level that's attracting more to feed that.
yeah,
Like the universe has one
coherence.
job. Yeah, the
Yeah,
universe listens. It literally listens, and I wish people would take that more seriously.
yeah,
And you have been following your excitement and your passion, and it's led you to this. Like you have the life you are living and the experience you're having with all of these pieces and collecting them. It's just like a blessing. I think
it is. I mean, but it not necessarily in a, I mean, for me, it's
you
been an adventure
you
for sure. Like the
yeah.
amount of effort that it's taken to do this, and to see, because I mean, it's like finding buried treasure.
Hmm.
It's really hard because there's obviously the sins inside of us, like greed and lust and all these things for these material items. We're pre-programmed in to be detoured and to be
Hmm.
slowed down and to be capped out from this type of stuff. So going up
Hmm.
against these items and the amount of hurdles to get over it, I mean,
Hmm.
it's ridiculous how materialistic this is. And I was telling my friend, I was like, I'm ready to just give all this to Mexico. Please, I hope they just come in and say, yes, we're going to come in and tell it all to be true, and they'll just take it and put it in their museums. Because honestly, like the whole fact of having to carry them, to sell them, to caretake, whatever it is,
Yeah.
the amount of abundance of materialism that comes from this is not what I necessarily intended to go after. I am a
Yeah.
collector at heart. I love to collect, but at what point is the collection collecting you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It became a full-time third job, on top of being a parent and a husband and all the other
Yeah,
things in your life. Yeah. Um, yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, you actively pursued this. I'm not saying that it was all just dropped. Like obviously you've done all the work to make this happen, but
yeah,
I just think it's very thousands of other people could have attempted this and it wouldn't have worked.
yeah.
So
It's
there's
definitely
something.
taken really thick skin and having a scientific mind to not give up, or to question every last detail, because I've had $1 million labs that are very, very world renowned tell me that these pieces are fake, and I didn't stop there. There was
Yeah.
still way too many questions, and maybe that piece is fake, but I've got to look at these others too, because there's a lot more fish in the sea here. And if just one or two of them is real, that's where the blessing comes in. Because obviously, if this was a controlled civilization of similar things to what the Bible talks about with the Nephilim and that sort of
Hmm.
thing, for us to know that and to wake up to that potential risk
Hmm.
is, I think, the awakening that it could be talked about prophetically, that this might be how we understand our past and also overcome it. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, just that possibility, for me, was a huge thing to be motivated by. Because, like I told people in many interviews, when I first started this, even if one piece is real, it's worth it to know. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
still, I mean, I know that for sure at this point. So yeah, it's got me locked in, because that really reduces the burden of who we are and why we're here. And so the ability to maybe be humble or to do good comes way more natural now, because I feel it and I truly believe it. The faith is real, so it's not like I'm questioning these things. And I think
Hmm.
that's what's really going to help awaken, or set us free, is that truth of understanding there is more to our history and who we are. We're not just here because of accidental evolution.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Someone was guiding us, or guiding this
Yeah.
project.
Well, science has
Absolutely.
explained. Yeah. Sorry, Shannon, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and just realizing that there's more than just us, and there is a higher power, and things are done by design and not by chaos or accident. Otherwise, it would have been recreated differently already
Yeah.
in different
Yeah.
places.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, science already proved that something manipulated our DNA. I don't know how long ago.
About 250,000 years, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that, where we basically became intelligent. What's
Mhm.
interesting is that it was the Y chromosome, I think, that mutated. That was this
Mhm.
cause, and so they ran a bunch of simulations on this chromosome and to see, what are the chances it could do this again? Like, what are the chances we might wake up tomorrow and be
Like
10
30.
times smarter or something? Like this is
Yeah.
crazy, and it was double. There's a 10 to the 400 or whatever that they come up with. Whatever this specific number is technically impossible, and so it was double the number of impossibility to have this mutation occur naturally.
I love it. We need to get a
Yeah,
DNA person on here. um,
yeah.
wow.
Nassim Harriman's
Yeah.
really, really smart with that type of stuff. I listened to a couple of his conversations with Greg Braden over the years, and
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
they go pretty deep into it, but it's very interesting mathematically just to see some of this type of rare, mutation, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. There's
But you
crazy.
dude, your collection has the answers to some of this. I think that's what I'm getting at is like, again, I'm
Yeah,
not trying to give you this like weird false like importance. I'm not trying to allude to your importance and like to make you feel good, right? You are a keeper of answers that we're seeking,
yeah,
and like I just think like the bigger picture of what you're doing and you and the few other people that are doing this, there is something really great coming. Like you're like all puzzle pieces right now,
yeah.
with a thousand other puzzle pieces in your in your house.
N-
And what it I like this story, like, and this is just the beginning.
yeah. So the boogosphere thing is really strange, and like when it came, and the fact that we were finding pieces with the chip around the same time. I mean, months before we found this sphere, and then all of a sudden, hundreds of pieces are being documented with this booga chip and this sphere on it, and it seems so orchestrated. And back in
Yeah,
the day, not everybody had GPR and radar. So when I started
yeah,
researching this in Abuelos, everybody was very poor down there. They're farmers. They don't have a lot of extra money, and there wasn't expensive equipment, let alone they wouldn't be safe to take that out there and go digging around. So
yeah.
they would use pendulum, they said, and I just couldn't believe it. This is when I was a real skeptic, and so
Mhm,
I've seen enough proof now. I've seen enough pendulums and depictions of pendulum being used in the pieces that I feel more comfortable talking about it. But this
mhm,
electromagnetic frequency, when you ask things like a Ouija board or dowsing rods, and you ask for
mhm,
things, a pendulum as well, you're asking it, like you're giving it a presence. And I think there's
mhm,
something really important with that is, if there is this realm that is invisible to us, maybe these watchers are still around us right now, and if we call out to them repeatedly and ask to them, or ask something in this realm, it could be influencing electromagnetic frequency specifically, and that
mhm,
could be why we get those things, why things are amped to move in a certain direction with the Ouija board. And so
mhm,
that could be a corruption, and you know the way that these beings are manipulating things is through that type of EMF, more so than what we would think or what we would normally guess physically, right?
mhm. Yeah. Earlier, I'm sure you guys I was fooling around with telekinesis. I've been practicing and honing it just by putting tinfoil on a it's an incense point.
Sure.
But I've noticed that the reason I do it because I'm sitting here and I know I'm going to be sitting here for 2 hours in this conversation, and it works better when I'm not heavily focused on the outcome. Um, when my attention is in other places and I'm relaxed, it works
Mm.
better. But what I've been noticing and I've been kind of experimenting with is when people are talking about things that get them really excited, and when they're onto something and then they've come up with like proof and conclusions, that's when it moves the most.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
I was watching it. I was doing it the whole time outside of the camera. And there were so many times when Dave was talking and it would all of a sudden just like totally start spinning and
Wow.
multiple times, and
Yeah.
so it's kind of the same effect as a pendulum in my experience. Like other people are going to
Mhm.
have totally different experiences. But I also think it's really cool, like what you mentioned, the dowsing rods. And I believe scientifically, I think it's been proven that they're affected by minerals. Did we lose him? I'm not sure if we lost him or not, but they're affected by minerals, and that's where. Um, so I guess like maybe the geopolymer clay and the crystals and all that, like these rods, these really simple copper rods, are leading to us to these discoveries because we're paying attention to these impulses and urges inside of us to find. And so it's actually a very simple process of getting there, but it's all based on the fact that you trust yourself.
Yeah, well, and it's the same thing as using dowsing rods to find water or like where
Yeah,
to dig
Right.
your well.
right.
Yeah.
There's you're seeking and you're putting your attention on it, and then you're finding.
There's a war. There's a war
Yeah.
going on at Shannon's house at all times. I'm so sorry, Shannon. Tell them to be quiet. We want to hear you. Knock it off. Mom's talking.
Yeah.
Dad just
It,
came in to enforce.
Mm.
the guy that uses the pendulum primarily in Awelos, he carries this pyramid with an eye on it, and it's a pendulum.
Oh,
And he was supposedly given this by the beings, and they're in communication with him, and this type of conversation, I didn't, I mean, yeah, but
you don't know, but
but
he is finding it.
the stuff. So I just released this new offshoot, and it's a brand on my brand, for Aliencarvings.store, that's called Juan Republic. And this guy's named Juan, and the stuff that he's found is absolutely insane. And I mean, he's documented it all very, very well, as of late, anyways, the last couple of years. Before it was not good, but the fact that this guy has pulled these. So I took a lot of these tablets, and these mosaic tablets, they have all these drawings all over them, but it's hard to make them out. You have to really look at them and focus to get your eyes to adjust to it, to really make out what the whole picture is. And so I used AI to take these drawings off, and I put them on in like a gold leafed way onto these shirts. And I mean, the story on these pieces is absolutely insane.
So that's
It's
in
crazy.
your store, and it's like a collection under what's it called?
Yeah, it's called
Juan.
Juan Republic. I figured the
Okay.
band would get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Okay. I like One Republic. Okay. You have amazing stuff on in your store. I love it. So I think that's probably where I'm going to start, is that collection. Like what a cool.
Just studying those. I'm gonna do a book, I
Yeah.
think, with a lot of these. I'm gonna go through a lot of pieces and really emboss those
Yeah.
those drawings, just to show them in a more clear way for studying.
Yeah, a few years ago, I got my son a tie for like special events, and it's black with gold Nazca line symbols, and I thought
Oh,
that was
cool.
so freaking cool. And nobody's said anything, but I'm like, I just think like how everything should look like that. Everything like what you just explained, and the symbols coming off an artifact. That's what
Yeah.
I want to wear.
Yeah,
I don't know
right.
about anybody else, but
Right.
yeah.
And then,
I have one topic left, and I are you okay on time?
yeah, of course.
Okay,
I was just
Shannon.
going to answer this one question. There
Yes,
is some with
please.
cuneiform writing on there, not
Oh,
necessarily in that
cool.
collection, because the stuff from Awelos, it's a whole different language. But the stuff from Tula has a lot of cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyphics. So, yeah, that just look for the Tula stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't even know how they deciphered cuneiform. Like I love all of that. I love the symbolism, but like it was a bent edged stick to create all these different
Yeah,
symbols, and like what a task. And then to be able
yeah,
to read that, like, but they knew there was an intelligence that we often don't give credit to, and Dave was speaking on this, that like to know to put it into, okay, maybe they didn't have access to everything that we, of course, that we do now, but to comprehend how to leave information in a way that we're going to find it 12,000 years later is
Yeah.
profound,
Yeah.
and I love that.
Yep. That this Sunday we're doing a major research. I've got a whole entire university lab that is taking their days off and going in on their days off rather, and they're going to open up the lab with four people, two scanning electron microscopes, a CT scanner, and they're going to go through like 25 different samples, and they're also doing XRD on the geopolymer. So we're going to get to see this material, and is it natural or is it man-made for sure. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a really good breaking point to be able to go forward with studies, because right now there's scientists that agree with that, then there's scientists that disagree with that. And so we're going to get there's a PhD of spectroscopy and microscopy that runs this lab that's going to try to do a paper on these pieces to confirm a lot of this type of stuff and to kind of curtail onto one of these papers one way or the other. So.
Is that down here in San Diego?
No,
The
it's
lab?
actually
No. Okay.
it's in Israel of all
Oh,
places.
okay.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
I know, right?
yeah. No,
And
wow.
it's something I would normally take like more concern about if, oh, Israel's calling you wanting to do testing, but the
Yeah.
the reality is this was such an organic,
Yeah.
someone that I've known for years, and it just so happened to work out that way. So
That's so cool. So what do you
yeah.
think? Do you weigh one
I
direction?
I would almost guarantee that a lot of these pieces have geopolymer, but I would also say a lot of them are carved stone. They absolutely used both, and I think
Yeah.
that's what we see in the megalithic sites too. There's clearly obelisks that were carved that didn't make it, that were cracked in the
Yeah.
ground, and there's proof of some of this type of stuff that it was quarried, but I think a lot of it was crushed up at the quarry site and reconstituted later, like for the pyramids and certain things like that.
Yeah. And
Well,
maybe
and oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying maybe the geopolymer, the man-made stuff was almost where people were practicing before they used an incredible piece of, whatever rock. Like you need to practice 100 times before you get your hands on that rock. Okay, Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I was going to say Israel is such a hotbed for they're so advanced in genetic testing and biotech in particular. Like here in San Antonio, a very good friend of mine is part of what they call an Israeli cradle, and they work with biotech firms. He was big into the university system here in Texas, and there's so many things that are developed there that then like this group sort of they're like a venture cap and they bring some of them into the United States, very medical oriented. This person's a doctor, but it's a great place for the testing because they have some amazing equipment there.
yeah. Yep. Yeah, amazing equipment. And then in this case, that lab has studied. People have brought in crash site objects and different things, kind of like we have Roswell here. There was multiple landing sites in the early 2000s in Israel that aren't really well documented. And I was informed about this, and that some of the materials, a slimy type material that was found that's um, what was it made out of? It was mostly organic materials like a wax, but it was unlike anything
Mm-hmm.
she'd ever seen. But just hearing that they have this type of contact there potentially, it's
Yeah.
very interesting. We obviously send a lot of money as a country to Israel. We know something's very special there. Clearly, it wouldn't have been formed and done in the way that it did unless there was more to
Mm,
the story. The Wailing Wall and all the Dome of the Rock and what happened on those grounds, and they say that it's still the old kingdom on the other side of that wall. That's the divider of the new and the old kingdoms. And what that actually divides is very interesting. And what happens beyond those walls it has been very controversial for a long time. So it's interesting, like with the temple and the sacrifice and all that stuff that was essentially ended by Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jews kind of
Yes.
denounce that and then continue this practice potentially. So it's a very it's a biblical thing that's happening there. It's possibly I've seen a one video that had this weird white alien come land down, or an orb that was, I mean, I've never seen anything like it, and I thought it was fake the first time I saw it. And then there was quite a few other videos, hundreds of different views of it happening. And
Wow.
people said that the one guy that did reporting for the news there said specifically he was told not to report it and to report on this other story instead, to because there were so many calls about it or something like that. But
Wow.
yeah, super strange. Definitely a lot of other places in the world that seem to be dealing with the same disclosure issue, which is interesting.
Well, and we've seen other governments start to release their records. The Prime
Hmm.
Minister of
That's what.
Japan made some
Yes.
release.
Yes.
Down in Brazil, there was some information released. Other
Yep.
parts in South America. So
Yeah.
we're
You go
starting to
back in
see
the
this come from other governments as well.
Yeah, you go back to I think it was in the 90s or the late 80s. Grenada as a country came forward and claimed some of this stuff, and they were completely ridiculed by it. And same thing with Mexico. Mexico's tried to come out with this type of stuff numerous times, and for whatever reason has been stopped or swept under the rug. So it's interesting.
It really is.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Jordan. That's another interesting place too. With the way Petra is, that
Petra,
area,
yeah.
the archaeologist that had done a
Hmm.
lot of studies in Saudi Arabia and Romania, she had seen some of this type of stuff. She got to go down there to Petra and do quite a bit of work and access to things that normally they wouldn't be giving. And she said that place is full of really interesting history.
That's not known to everyone freely.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Bedouin culture and like that
Yeah.
era of time, it's very mysterious for sure.
That was like that was probably my first rabbit hole that I went down right before I went through this like huge awakening. And there was it was advertised here in San Diego that there was going to be a talk on it, right? And so I went to this location where they showed a documentary, and then I went to talk to the guy that had kind of facilitated afterwards, and I just asked him a few questions that weren't even that woo, and he backed off so much, and I realized that it was like a very religious, I don't even know what religion it was, but it was a
Hmm.
very religious um, group that shared it. And I was so
Yeah,
bummed because I was like, here's somebody that can actually talk to me about this, that I've been researching it for a while, and he wouldn't because fear or whatever. But
here. Yeah,
yeah, no, dude, it's amazing.
yeah. There's a lot of that. So many tribes and places that are literally uh fearing what's happened. So I can't even fathom how many people may have perished because of this truth being held, and
Yeah,
for what purpose. And then maybe like you had said earlier, like the amount of power that one could harness knowing some of these technologies. Maybe all these people that have perished, it was to protect us from something even greater that was worse. And
yeah,
I keep my mind open about that, because there's definitely a
yeah,
lot of good people in our Congress and in our government
hmm,
that I know are good. I mean, there's probably a lot of corrupt people too, of course,
yeah,
but nonetheless, not all of them are that way. And there seems to be movement and support around certain things that make
yeah,
me
Hmm.
feel that there might be an integral purpose for this, more so than just warring weapons and stuff. It could be much more of a threat, especially if it was copied or spied upon and lost to somebody else, if it was that
yeah.
bad. You know?
Well, luckily you have this very great sense of respect towards your pieces and your collection, and I feel like you're going to be a key part of something that's coming in a very positive way, but like I agree with you, there are really good people paying attention too.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
books. That's why I wrote those books, because it might not be in my lifetime that anything ever comes from this. I may die still with the world in mystery if this is real or not. But the
Yeah.
documentation is there, and technology and what's under the ground with like the SAR scans from Biondi and those guys over there
Yeah.
in Italy.
Yes.
There's clearly opportunity in the future, near future, to get more clarification that's not going to be able to be prevented by governments. And that could be another reason why the governments are agitating disclosure, because this satellite aperture radar and other types of things from space, that they're not going to be able to keep it a secret. And it's
Yeah.
going to be there. People are going to know and demand what's under that pyramid.
Yeah. Yes. No, they already know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure someone
We're
at
just not
least,
ready for it.
or at least there's people out there that know that there's something there, but maybe they might even be in the dark of how deep it is. I don't know. it's interesting, like Zahi Hawass, for instance. I've studied this man a fair
Yeah.
amount because he's an interesting figure in the amount of
Yes.
authority and power he has over the archaeology of something so important. Um, it's borderline ridiculous. It's almost like a dictator of
Hmm.
knowledge, or a gatekeeper. You called me a
Yeah.
keeper of knowledge earlier, and that's a gatekeeper of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like
He's like,
I try to share that stuff out as fast as I get it, because I don't
hmm
want to be that guy. um you could literally die, and then all this history is lost, and that's
I get the sense that
horrible.
he's a pawn, and they picked him really well. So I feel like there's a lot more behind him that dictates what he's allowed to share and say. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the control over everything. The Flint
Yeah.
dribbles, the
Yeah.
Zahiwas. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many figures. The podcasters. I mean, I'm not going to try to name drop a whole bunch of people that I feel that are plants or seeds, but
Yeah.
I can tell you someone here. For instance, there's a certain show that is on that had done an entire filming of this type of stuff, and then after it got to the production level, I mean, he flew out to San Francisco, did all kinds of stuff. Very
Hmm.
important. Had Joe Rogan call him while he was there.
Yeah.
And Joe had pictures of these pieces on his phone that he'd sent him, asking him if it was the same pieces, because he said, yeah, I'm checking out these crazy alien things. But it was shut down so fast. No one's gonna fly out there and on their own dime and film all this stuff, and then, oh no, that's fake. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no reason or anything. But yeah, there's handlers of some form that control this information at a high level. And like I say, it might be for the good. Opening Pandora's box isn't fun, so I'm gonna just trust that the system is doing what it's supposed to, and everything's happening for a reason.
Yeah. You're not talking about. Well, you didn't want Randall Carlson, right? You're not
No,
talking.
I'm talking
Okay.
about Jesse Michaels.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I heard I've listened to quite a few really good conversations on Joe Rogan, and there was something that happened with Randall Carlson, who I met,
And
who's such a nice guy.
that's what my good friend just met with
Yeah.
him and showed him the artifacts. He'd never seen them before, and so he gave him the published paper. And
Oh,
so I'm
badass.
curious to hear what he has to think about it. He
Yeah.
does a lot of stuff in Washington and close to home, and I've always found
Yeah.
fascination with his work for sure. He's hitting on things that not a lot of people were wanting to talk about.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Man, this is so cool. Okay. It's 2.5 hours. I can't keep you any longer.
Of
Thank you
course.
so much. Thank you.
Till
Thank
next time,
you.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, if you don't mind. Yeah. We'll
Yeah,
definitely have you back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for returning right away
of
and
course.
being we all wanted to hear what David had to say, and we had you on last week, but I wanted to continue a bunch of those conversations. There was something I brought up last
Everything
week.
happens for a reason.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. It does. I brought up something I couldn't remember the name of this location that had discs that there's stored information on, or to believed to be, and it's the Busegi Mountains in
Oh.
Romania is what I mistakenly
Oh,
said Turkey.
wow.
Have you ever heard of the
Oh, okay, that's
Busegi?
interesting. No, but that's super interesting with Romania, because that archaeologist had seen this type of stuff there, which is so traces of that culture. I think could be
Hmm.
definitely present there for sure.
Do a deep dive on the Busegi Mountains. There's caves there, and there are artifacts that are
Wow.
unlike anything else. I think there's something similar that was found in Asia, um,
Mm.
where it seems like they're discs that store information. Supposedly, maybe if they're operated correctly, they might form a hologram that literally explains all the questions that we still have. Like how did Earth form? I mean, like when you mix the spiritual and science together, right?
Obi-Wan
Mhm.
Kenobi, you're my
Yeah.
only hope type of thing.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah. No.
exactly. Super cool.
All right.
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm more of a believer than anything I learned in school at this point. Yeah,
Sad but true. Yeah.
yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, Shannon. Did you have
Yeah.
anything else you wanted to bring up? I know you've been holding it down
No,
over
I
there
mean, I know
with the
the
dogs.
war has calmed down.
Yeah,
I had to move from my desk over to my office couch because they all need to be here, and
they
I
get so
can't.
wound up only
They
on
get so
Fridays.
wound up.
It's the
Life with a
way.
whole
They
bunch of
know.
dogs.
But
No.
certain things only happen though on Fridays. That's what's really
They
funny.
do.
Like
They don't really like go this crazy the rest of the time. I mean, Kimberly, we've been on the phone plenty of times.
Yeah.
And, you know, on Zooms and different things, they're like totally fine. But Friday night, everybody loses their mind.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting behaviors.
It's
Energies.
the energy. Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. Well,
Right
you're
on.
awesome. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for being so open and wanting to get this out and share it. And the people that are seeking this kind of information are going to find these conversations. So thank you.
That's just it. Yep. Thank you guys.
Very
Have a good rest of
cool.
your night.
Thanks. Good
Yeah.
night.
Thanks, guys.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. All right, let me do the end. Is it going to end on the